Imagine standing on a vast plain where the morning mist clings to the grass and two armies stare each other down. On one side, armored knights of Serbia, their banners of the cross fluttering defiantly. On the other, the unstoppable tide of the Ottoman Empire, drums pounding, Janissaries tightening their ranks. It is June 15th, 1389, the Battle of Kosovo. A clash so brutal, so drenched in blood that centuries later it still defines the soul of nations. This was no ordinary battle. Here, kings and sultans would fall, heroes would be born, traitors accused, legends carved into eternity. But the most haunting truth? No one really won, and yet everyone remembered. So what truly happened on that fateful day? And why does a battle fought more than 600 years ago still echo through the memory of Europe? Today, we uncover the story of sacrifice, betrayal, and myth that turned Kosovo into more than just a battlefield. It became a symbol of destiny. To understand why the Battle of Kosovo matters, we must step back into the world of the late 14th century. Europe was shifting, empires rising and falling like tides. The once mighty Byzantine Empire, guardian of Constantinople, was only a shadow of its former self. In the north, Hungary watched the Balkans hungrily, waiting for a chance to expand. Across the fractured Slavic lands, rival lords quarreled more often than they united. And in the east, a storm was building. The Ottoman Turks, under Sultan Murad I, had swept out of Anatolia, seized Thrace, and planted their capital in Edirne. With their elite Janissaries, disciplined cavalry, and a vision of conquest, the Ottomans pushed relentlessly into Europe. But standing in their path was Serbia, once a great empire under Stefan Dusan, stretching from the Adriatic to the Aegean. Serbia had splintered after his death in 1355. Amid the chaos, one man rose to prominence: Prince Lazar Rebeljanovich. Lazar was no ordinary warlord. He was remembered as a pious man, a diplomat, and above all, a leader determined to resist Ottoman domination. From his court in Kruševac, Lazar rallied nobles, built alliances, and prepared for the storm he knew was coming. The stage was set. On one side, a fragmented but determined Balkan alliance. On the other, an empire with the resources, discipline, and willpower to conquer continents. And at the very heart of this struggle lay a fertile plain near Pristina, Kosovo Polje, the field of blackbirds, a place that would soon become soaked in blood and remembered in legend. The road to Kosovo was paved with victories, defeats, and uneasy alliances. In 1371, the Ottomans had crushed a coalition of Balkan lords at the Battle of Maritsa. The shock rippled through the region. Many Serbian nobles bowed to Ottoman authority, paying tribute and even sending troops to fight for the Sultan. But Lazar refused to yield. In 1387, at the Battle of Plochnik, his forces ambushed and routed a Turkish detachment. It was a rare victory, and it sent a dangerous message. Serbia could resist. Murad was enraged. The Sultan resolved to march personally into Serbia with a vast army, determined to break Lazar once and for all. From Anatolia, Thrace, and his vassal states, he gathered tens of thousands. Lazar, too, prepared. He called upon his allies, Vuk Branković, his powerful son-in-law, and Vlatko Vuković, leading Bosnian troops sent by King Tvrtko. Chroniclers later exaggerated the numbers, claiming hundreds of thousands, but historians believe both armies fielded roughly 30,000 each. And so, on June 15th, 1389, the two forces converged on the plains of Kosovo. The morning was heavy with clouds. Chroniclers described it as a sea of grass and shallow rivers, the air thick with silence. To the west, Serbian banners of the cross rippled in the wind, knights in shining armor, infantry clutching spears, priests blessing the soldiers with communion. To the east, the Ottoman host stretched into the horizon. Drums thundered, Janissaries locked their shields, muezzins called the faithful to prayer. When the sun rose higher, it began. The Serbian cavalry charged, armored knights thundering forward like a tidal wave of steel. At their head rode a man whose name would echo through centuries, Miloš Obilić. The first impact was devastating. Ottoman light infantry fell in heaps. Janissaries staggered under the weight of the armored assault, and for a moment it seemed as if the Serbs would shatter the enemy lines. But the Ottomans were no strangers to shock. Murad's son, Bayezid, the Thunderbolt, led his cavalry in a ferocious counterattack. Arrows rained down, piercing armor and horses alike. The muddy ground slowed the Serbian charge, turning glory into a grinding melee. The plain of Kosovo became chaos incarnate. Swords clashing, arrows whistling, men shouting prayers as they fought for survival. The Serbian momentum stalled, and now the battle shifted into a brutal test of endurance. By midday, the field of Kosovo was a cauldron of blood and mud. The Serbian charge had torn deep into Ottoman lines, but the discipline and sheer numbers of Murad's army began to close the gaps. Bayezid and his brother Jakub pressed hard on both flanks, tightening the noose around Lazar's men. It was then that legend tells of an act both daring and mysterious. Miloš Obilić, accused of treachery the night before, sought to prove his loyalty in the most audacious way possible. He swore he would strike at the very heart of the Ottoman enemy. Crossing the battlefield under the guise of defection, Obilić approached the Sultan's camp. Some accounts say he disguised himself, others claim he pretended to surrender. But all agree on what happened next. Obilić reached Sultan Murad's tent and struck. With a hidden dagger, he stabbed the Sultan, delivering a fatal wound. Murad I became the only Ottoman Sultan ever killed on the battlefield. Obilić was cut down instantly by the Sultan's guards, but his name was immortalized in Serbian memory as the ultimate knight of loyalty and sacrifice. For a moment, confusion swept the Ottoman camp. The death of a sultan could have shattered morale. But Bayezid, known as the Thunderbolt, acted swiftly. He concealed his father's death, rallied the troops, and pressed the attack harder. On the Serbian side, Prince Lazar's position grew desperate. His lines buckled under relentless pressure. Then came the most bitter moment of all. Vuk Branković, commanding a crucial wing of the Serbian army, withdrew from the battlefield. Was it a tactical retreat to save his men, or an act of betrayal that doomed Lazar? History offers no clear answer. Legend, however, branded Branković forever as the traitor of Kosovo. With his forces collapsing, Prince Lazar fought bravely, but was captured. Some say he was executed on the spot by Bayezid. Others claim he was taken prisoner and executed the next day. In Serbian tradition, Lazar became a martyr, a ruler who chose the heavenly kingdom over the earthly one, sacrificing himself for faith and people. As night fell, the plain of Kosovo was strewn with corpses, Ottoman, Serbian, Bosnian alike. Streams ran red with blood, carrion birds circled endlessly. Neither side could claim victory, but in the long shadow of history, the Ottomans endured, while Serbia's independence withered. The Battle of Kosovo was unlike any other. It ended not in clear victory, but in devastation for both sides. Murad lay dead, the only Ottoman sultan ever slain in battle. Prince Lazar, too, was gone, leaving Serbia leaderless. Tens of thousands of warriors, knights, peasants, Janissaries, cavalry, were lost in the mud and blood of that single day. And yet, the consequences could not have been more different. The Ottomans, vast and resourceful, replaced their losses. Bayezid, ruthless and swift, seized power, even executing his own brother to secure the throne. From that moment forward, Ottoman expansion into the Balkans only grew stronger. For Serbia, however, Kosovo was a breaking point. Without Lazar, the kingdom fractured, slipping deeper into vassalage under Ottoman control. A once proud state that had rivaled Byzantium now entered decline. But here lies the paradox. In memory, Kosovo was not a defeat. It was transfigured into something greater. For the Serbs, Lazar became a Christ-like martyr, choosing the heavenly kingdom, sacrificing himself for faith in people. Miloš Obilić, the assassin of Murad, became the ultimate knight, the very image of loyalty and courage. And Vuk Branković, condemned as the eternal traitor, a warning etched into song and story. These legends were sung for centuries by bards, keeping alive a sense of identity during long years under foreign rule. Kosovo was no longer just a battlefield. It became a covenant, a symbol of sacrifice, faith, and national identity. For the Ottomans, Murad's death was framed as noble martyrdom, a sultan who fell in holy war, sanctified on the very field where he died. His burial site became sacred ground, honored for generations. And for Europe, Kosovo was a warning. At first, courts celebrated the Sultan's death, believing the Ottoman tide had been broken. But reality soon set in. Bayezid pressed harder than ever, proving the empire was far from weakened. The legacy of Kosovo is not in tactics or military outcomes. It lies in memory. It is a paradox, a stalemate that became symbol, a defeat transformed into eternal victory, a battle that defined nations long after the bodies were gone. Even today, 6 centuries later, the field of blackbirds is remembered not only in chronicles, but in the soul of peoples. It reminds us of the strange power of history, that sometimes what matters is not who wins or loses, but how the story is told. And that story still echoes. The Battle of Kosovo, where kings fell, legends rose, and history turned to myth. What do you think? Was Miloš Obilić truly the hero history remembers? Was Branković a traitor, or simply a survivor? And what lessons can we still draw from a battle fought 600 years ago? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, give this video a like, subscribe to History in Motion, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next story where history moves and myths live on.